Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
Two dark eyes stared each other in the eye. A strange, heavy sensation fell upon them, which made Naruto twitch in discomfort ever so slightly. Naruto swore that he saw a flash of heavy emotions in Kakashi's eyes, but it was gone before he could be entirely sure. However, what he did notice was that Kakashi's face suddenly seemed a lot blanker, as if he was hiding his emotions. So he is affected by my presence after all. Naruto knew that this was Kakashi's way of handling emotional situations, as he had done so many times in the future. However, in Obito's eyes, it reminded him more of the selfish and cold-hearted bastard that had been belittling him for a while now. To make it worse, the blank and uninterested look made Kakashi seem quite arrogant. Not the best association for Obito's memories to be called up to, Naruto decided. Oh, he thought as his fears were confirmed. Naruto could feel it. His seal was already acting up. He had no real memory that had come back to him, but the impressions and feelings that got to the surface were not very positive ones, which might be troubling, seeing as Naruto had difficulty with remaining subtle and calm when he was angry, much like how Obito would act. Naruto felt his eye narrow dangerously as Kakashi seemed to shake himself out of his thoughts and then proceeded to dismiss his presence as if he was just a simple bystander that was not worth his attention. So he doesn't recognize me? Naruto mused. Must be because he can't sense the chakra signature. He decided, knowing that anyone wouldn't expect a dead teammate to be hidden under the scarf. Still, that didn't mean that he could dismiss him like that. Who does that bastard think he is? He thought before he could stop himself. Where had that come from? He almost took control of his emotions before he stopped himself. Mentally, Naruto realized that he felt reluctant to let himself go with the flow, but seeing as it was necessary, Kakashi's eyes told him that he really needed to be reunited with Obito. He allowed himself to push away all his future memories for a while. He was going to act completely instinctively. He was going to be Obito. And Obito was currently feeling very much like punching that bastard in the face. Fortunately for said bastard, a hand was put on his shoulder. I will restrain you if I have to, was the message behind it. His sensei must have noticed his abrupt shift in mood. His angry eye glanced at the blonde, whose blue eyes were watching him very carefully. He glanced at Kakashi again, feeling his ire rising once again. Naruto turned to his sensei, his inner frustration dangerously bubbling. A light flash of memory allowed him to realize that he should know him. As Naruto expected, a flash of having Kakashi berate him about something was not a very positive introduction. His eyes widened slightly as he looked at the Kakashi once again. His empty eye socket started itching. He knew why, of course, but since the memory was not resurfacing, he didn't say anything. Instead, he just rubbed it with the back of his hand and he watched as Rin started a conversation with the white-haired Jounin. She must have felt that the tension between the two were steadily rising and decided to intervene. She seemed to be good at noticing like that. In the corner of his eye, he saw blue eyes sharpening as soon as he started rubbing his eye. I know him, don't I? Is he my teammate? The scarfed boy inquired softly, meeting Minato's blue eyes once more. Minato grinned slightly. Yeah, he is, he confirmed, seemingly glad that he was remembering. Then why the hell am I feeling so angry towards this guy? He whispered towards the man, said, anger finally leaking through his voice. This seemed to catch the man off guard. The blue eyes saddened, even though there was a glimmer of hope that remained. Minato didn't answer his question this time, but instead sighed rather tiredly. I will explain that later. Just calm down. He clenched his shoulder a little firmer as emphasis. Naruto nearly growled at him. Easy for him to say. He didn't have to ignore the emotions that were not raging inside of him. Where is all this anger? No, wait, it is not anger. Where does all this frustration come from? Naruto never thought that the man he had looked up to for so long could evoke so much emotion from him. Kakashi suddenly seemed to remember why he was here and turned away from Rin even though she was still talking to him. Naruto felt another spike of strong annoyance and he allowed him to sneer, since it would be hidden by that scarf. As I said, Sensei, the Hokage has requested. There was a tiny pause before Kakashi continued. Team Minato to come and see him. Kakashi drawled out, his eye flickering towards Obito once more. There was a little bit of hostility in his eye as he put emphasis on the name of his team. Naruto's eye widened ever so slightly as realization dawned upon him. Naruto couldn't help but wonder if Kakashi was currently thinking that Obito was going to be replaced. He thought he was here to replace his old teammate. I get it. Naruto nodded to himself. He could understand that anger and hostility, having had the same feelings when Sai replaced Sasuke's place. Unfortunately, Obito did not have the same feelings to understand this. To make it worse, Naruto noted, his emotions were starting to feel much stronger than before too. It wouldn't take long before he was going to Who are you anyway? Kakashi drawled as soon as Rin was done talking again. The tone was everything but polite. Obito glared at the boy, his anger boiling. Minato's hand suddenly didn't seem much like a warning anymore. Kakashi! Minato snapped, his disapproval clearly heard. However, Minato had been too late. The damage was gone. It had been the tone that had been the final drop. Naruto would decide later on. The tone. How much he despised that belittling tone. He was his teammate, damn it. He did earn a little bit of respect. He felt something snap. Bastard! He growled out and jumped forward. Before he realized what he was doing, Minato had grabbed his scarf and had pulled him back rather roughly. Behave yourself, boys. He tried to remind them, but he was pointedly ignored. Kakashi was now openly glaring at the teenager in front of him. How dare that guy remind him of his dead teammate so much? How dare he sit next to his sensei like he belonged there? Why the hell did Rin give him a worried look? He didn't understand what was going on. Had he been calmer, he might have realized that something was off. But this was not the case. The feeling of numbness that he had been hovering in for a long time was broken, and the emotions, and the guilt, so much guilt that had cropped up there, needed an outlet. Kakashi glared at him, his face visibly struggling to keep blank. It was much like that time the flashes of memories took over. I'm your superior. You will listen to M-. Naruto took a large breath of air as his eye widened. His hands clenched so hard that his knuckles went white. Crybaby. Brat, are you all right? His sensei called him. His tone was urgent and the grip on his shoulder tensed. He ignored it as he clenched his eye shut. They were not going to make it. He had to act now. They were going to get crushed. Save Kakashi. Protect your teammates. Without even thinking about what he was doing, he grabbed his teammate and Kakashi. He shakily breathed out so softly that only Minato heard him. The grip tightened. Get a hold of yourself. The blonde sensei muttered to the boy, shaking his shoulder ever so slightly to get him out of his thought. Inoichi-san had warned him that they shouldn't rush into things. They had to be careful with Obito's memories. I may alar. Shit, he thought as he saw the stones descending down upon him. This was going to hurt. He closed his eyes and waited for the pie. It was suddenly a lot harder to breathe. What's wrong with him? He heard Kakashi drawl out, sounding annoyed. He couldn't breathe. The memory was overlapped by his own. He had to get away. Everything was too close. It just had to be that memory, didn't it? Naruto thought absently as he felt the room closing in on him. Even Minato's hand was too much. He needed air. He needed a place in open air. He needed to breathe. Brat. Naruto's heart twisted at how worried the man sounded. Outside. He breathed out as he tried to desperately pull away from the man. Minato hadn't been quite expecting him to react so quickly, and Obito slipped from his grasp. He roughly bumped Kakashi in the shoulder, just because it felt incredibly good doing so at the moment, and he dashed away. Oh dash! Rin started calling out his name but quickly stopped. Come back! Minato's eyes narrowed as he saw his charge flee from the building. This had not been his intention at all. He never thought that he would react so strongly to Kakashi. Though Kakashi always was the one to get him riled up. He reminded himself, absently scratching his cheek. Of course, Minato wasn't very worried about Obito escaping. He could easily run after the boy if he wanted to. He could literally catch him within a second because of the hidden seal that he had subtly painted underneath the repressor seal. Still, even if he were to catch him, it was not going to work. The boy seriously needed an outlet. An outlet, huh? His thoughtful eye flickered to Kakashi, who was glaring in the direction the teenager had run off to. The blonde noticed that his hand was clenched, knuckles white. To be truthful, to actually see that amount of emotion from the teenager was very refreshing. Kakashi had been numb ever since Obito's death. The guilt was gnawing at him and he refused to let go of it. Instead, he had dealt with it in a very shinobi-like way, by not thinking about it and letting it all build up. Only the frequent visits to the memorial stone had indicated that Kakashi still felt guilty. The rest of the day he was mostly an emotionless ninja, following his duties and hiding away as soon as possible. Not that the rest of Team Minato had allowed that to happen. Though I must admit that I have been very busy with the upcoming Hokage position. Minato thought, feeling rather guilty. His eye glanced towards the girl next to him. And with Rin constantly working at the hospital, it is quite difficult to keep the team intact. That did not mean that Kakashi had not been recovering, of course, but he had yet to show that amount of passion. Knowing the Jounin, he probably always will feel guilty, unless he finds an outlet that will wait a minute. A sudden idea popped up in his head. His eyes sparkled for a moment. Ever so slowly a smirk slipped onto his face, which he quickly hid as he turned towards Kakashi. This would be good for both of them. Kakashi, he said sternly, causing the team to tense ever so slightly. He eyed him with a serious expression. Go out and retrieve our new teammate. Get to know him. I know that you don't like this, but look underneath the underneath for once. The teenager glared at him, nearly making Minato grin in joy. His stern expression remained on his face though. This is going to be good, the blonde thought, mentally patting himself on the back. But sensei, we don't need another tea. Kakashi, he barked, actually enjoying the fact that the boy tried to argue with him. It was not a question. It was an order. Meet us at the Hokage Tower when you are done. A very blank expression flickered on Kakashi's face as the teenager nodded towards his sensei. Minato was fully aware that the kid was seriously pissed off. Even with his blank expression, Minato could practically see the steam coming from his ears. The white-haired teenager stiffly turned around and started following the guy with the red scarf. How dare Minato-sensei forget about Obito like that? I will drag that guy back, all right? That scarf will be very useful, the white-haired teenager thought broodingly. A part of him realized that he was acting irrational, though. So, with a lot of effort, he decided that he would try to play polite. Not nice, though. He didn't feel like being nice at all. Taking a deep breath, Kakashi continued following the figure in the distance. His eyes narrowed when he noticed that he was moving towards a certain training ground. Did Sensei show him around or something? He wondered as he dashed forward with a little more speed. Back in the ramen stand. Rin stared after the pair with a worried expression. She sighed heavily, suddenly feeling a bit left out. She turned to her sensei and eyeing him uncomfortably. Sensei, are you really going to let them? Her eyes widened slightly when she saw her sensei grin widely. It was not the simple wide grin either. No, it was a smile that seemingly threatening to split his face. He is planning something, she concluded cautiously, having seen that particular grin a couple of times before. Don't worry, Rin-chan. That tone also sounded far too happy. It made Rin suspicious. Those boys just need to get some anger out of their system. Minato happily explained to her as he grabbed the bowl that Obito had abandoned. It was still warm. Rin's sweat dropped as he saw her sensei gulp it down in record time. You are going to let them fight among each other alone? She asked, having difficulty to leave the "are you out of your mind" tone out of her voice. Ah, Rin-chan, you are so cute when you worry about your teammates, Minato exclaimed, having caught the tone effortlessly, patting her head affectionately. The girl fought a blush and sputtered out a protest. Sensei, I'm not cute, she said, trying to gently slap away his hand. Ah, you are even cuter when you blush, Minato teased her, patting her one more time, and then he quickly gulped down the last of the remains. Rin wisely decided to remain silent as her cheeks got only warmer. Instead, she grumbled under her breath, which Minato in turn wisely decided to ignore. Bye, Tucci, Minato called out as he stood up, his student following his example. Well, Rin-chan, let's make sure that they don't kill each other, any? He asked, holding out his hand for him take. Rin took the hand without pausing, being familiar with the technique. How do you know where they are going? She asked. Minato just grinned. Because, even though Obito might not remember everything, that does not mean that he will not follow his habits. Tell me, where did he go to nearly every day? Most often in such a rush that he has taught himself how to reach it as fast as possible from any location. He explained to her and smiled as Rin's eyes widened in realization. Kakashi-kun is not going to like the fact that he is heading somewhere close to the memorial stone, she muttered, suddenly looking a little worried. Nope, he certainly won't. Minato agreed, though he didn't seem to share her worry at all, and chuckled as he took a step forward. Before his foot even touched the ground, he was gone, taking his student along with him. Training Ground 3. How odd. I wasn't even really thinking about where I was going. The ninja pondered as he finally realized where he was. Naruto was breathing heavily as he finally reached his destination. His dash towards the training ground seemed like a blur, but now that he had arrived, his mind seemed to become clearer. He let out a sigh of relief and wiped his clammy forehead. He reached up to take off the bandana. He was not used to covering his hair and he needed it to breathe for a bit. Stupid Kakashi. He muttered angrily, tugging at the cloth as it wasn't giving away. He growled slightly and started working on realizing the knot on the back of the bandana. The ninja startled slightly as he saw something rush at him, and before he knew it, he was on his back on the ground. Somebody had tackled him. Naruto's breath was knocked out of him, and he absently realized that someone was straddling him, effectively restraining him. White hair brightened up as the moon appeared from behind the clouds. Stupid seal, Naruto thought, not having noticed him following him. Of course they would follow, you idiot. You are nearly a friendly prisoner of some sort. While having this mental argument with himself, he owlishly blinked up at the figure hovering over him. Unsurprisingly, the figure was indeed Kakashi. Well, I wasn't expecting this, he thought. I guess I'm lucky that I didn't get off my bandana. If Minato-sensei wants me to keep my identity a secret, he must have a good reason for it. He continued, trying very hard to ignore the fact that he simply did not want to have this confrontation with Kakashi, and that Minato's opinion did have little to do with his reluctance. After all, Kakashi was part of the team, so, of course, the ninja was going to know eventually. But if Naruto had anything to say about it, it would not be today. He snapped out of his thoughts when his scarf was roughly grabbed by a pair of hands and shaken a few times. You listening to me? He heard the teenager on top of him growl. His eye twitched as he finally acknowledged the fact that the teenager was indeed on top of him. He might be a ninja and therefore body contact, fighting especially, was part of the life, but that did not mean that he liked it. especially since it restricted his movements, which he couldn't move. He was stuck. He needed to move. His defenses acted up. "Get off me," he protested shakily, trying to push him away from him. Kakashi didn't react but just kept glaring at him. "I don't know why you ran away like that, but you were coming back with me," he stated with a very serious voice. Naruto just growled at him and whispered harshly in reply, "I'm serious. If you are not going to move right now, then I'm going to hit you where it hurts," he threatened. Kakashi glanced down for a moment to see that Naruto had poised his hands just above his stomach, at the level his diaphragm. A well-aimed punch so close would indeed be very uncomfortable. The guy had acted quite quickly, the white-haired ninja noted. His apparent new teammate had not given him the chance to grasp his arms and pull them above his head. Instead, the other teenager had clamped his arms to his sides as soon as he had landed safely and brought them up in the space between him. Naruto saw Kakashi analyzing his moves for a moment and slowly nodded. "No need to have tackled me," he mumbled as Kakashi got off him. "I did not want you to flee again," Kakashi said, though Naruto easily translated it to a, "just because I felt like showing you who the boss is." Stupid scarecrow, and he had not fled, damn it. "Bastard," he muttered softly as he pushed himself off the ground. Then before he knew it, Kakashi swept him a feet and put a foot down on the teen's chest. Naruto automatically grasped the limb with both hands and clenched his hands in warning. His anger was rising. "What the hell is your problem?" he shouted at the other teenager, who was silently seething. "Don't call me that. I will call you the hell I want. You are acting like one," he screamed right back, his throat hoarse from having to use it a lot the last couple of days. He did not practice it a lot when he was alone, and he wondered if it was the reason why Kakashi hadn't recognized Obito's voice yet. "Bastard," the Uchiha added for the good measure. The weight of the foot increased and Naruto tried not to show that he suddenly had difficulty breathing. "Do not call me that," Kakashi growled out, his blank facade finally starting to fade. He leaned over once again and made a grasp for the scarf again. His hand was caught by Naruto, who coughed in response to the weight on his chest. "Don't fucking tell me what to do, bastard," he howled, his frustration finally breaking, and he pulled at the limb, causing Kakashi to flip over before he could do something to his foot. Naruto was quick to grab him, however, and pulled himself on top of him in order to restrain him. They continued rolling for a moment, each trying to restrain the other one. Eventually Naruto managed to use the momentum to kick Kakashi away from him, who flipped and landed half-crouched with a hand on the ground to steady himself. "He wants to vent on me? Fine, he will get it all back," he mentally growled. The idea of finally letting out all the frustration that was building up inside of him sounded like a brilliant idea. Naruto righted himself as soon as Kakashi was in the air. They glared for a while at each other, as the moon once again crept toward another fluffy cloud. At an unspoken signal, the two moved. Charging forward, they met in the middle of the clearing and started kicking out, blocking, pulling, and pushing. Naruto had never been in a fight like this one. There were so many emotions involved. Now he thought about it. "It does remind me a little of that fight with Sasuke," he mused. It was clear that Kakashi was better and stronger than he was, but for some reason the white-haired always seemed to hesitate to go above his own level. He is holding back, Naruto realized. Why is he holding back? He had expected to be beaten in no time. However, Kakashi didn't put even effort in his punches. He was tired, Naruto could see that. He had probably been on a very tiring mission. Still, that was not the real reason, Naruto decided. No, Kakashi was being distracted, very distracted. Naruto caught Kakashi's eyes glazing over ever so slightly. It was as if he was remembering. Am I really reminding him of Obito that much? Why the hell are you holding back? He shouted at him. Kakashi snapped out of his thought and glared at him. I would, but sensei won't like it if I dragged you along and you would be unable to walk. Stupid bastard. You just feel like receiving a few hits yourself so that you won't get distracted. Naruto grumbled just before he caught the implication. Are you saying I'm weak? Obito's knuckles turned white. Pretty much. Oh, that was it. Kakashi blocked a kick that Obito sent out to him. Naruto flipped back to avoid the punch that Kakashi threw out. He ducked when he swiped out and jumped over a sweep of the legs. Obito pulled back ever so slightly before he jumped forward to get more energy behind the punch he directed to the teenager's chest. Naruto barely noticed that they had slipped in a pure taijutsu routine. Flashes of memories and a feeling of déjà vu made him slip up a couple of times, but gradually he felt his anger and most of his frustration to slip away. He was glad that Kakashi didn't take advantage of those little blank outs. Well, most of them anyway. In no time, both boys were tired and sore, though Obito was clearly worse off than Kakashi was. What is your problem anyway? He called out to the boy as he closed in on his future sensei. Shut up. Kakashi growled at him, his anger rising once again at the indirect mentioning of the dead Obito. I'm your teammate, damn it. Stop this. Naruto shouted and mentally winched as he saw Kakashi's eye narrow dangerously. Maybe I shouldn't have dash. He didn't even have the time to finish his thought as Kakashi hit fully in the chest. Naruto's breath caught in his throat as he suddenly surged back through the air and landed roughly against a tree. Before he could even move, something shiny caught his attention. Kakashi stood right in front of him, his arm crooked as he held the kunai straight against Obito's throat. You don't understand. He whispered harshly, which for some reason did sound far more intimidating than all the other things he had shouted and growled at him. The kunai became even shinier when the moon decided to shine on them once again, and the contrast between the two became even clearer. The red scarf clashed against the blue clothes of other teenager. The white hair seemed to glow ever so slightly, while Obito's bandana seemed to become even darker. Two dark eyes glared at each other. Who am I replacing? The Uchiha spoke up softly. Naruto honestly wanted to know what Obito had meant to the boy in front of him. Obito had had a great effect on the man he had come to respect greatly far into the future. Naruto didn't know how long they stood like that before Kakashi silently spoke, but he could see the eye glance into the direction of the memorial stone that was now visible. Their fight had gotten them closer to the stone than Naruto had expected, and he followed the movement. He's dead, he informed, knowing fully well that his name was on that stone. Kakashi remained silent, his head bowed ever so slightly as he seemed to pay his respects. Naruto couldn't help but feel his heart clench at the sight. The fight had loosened a couple of memories of training sessions that had suddenly reminded how much respect Obito had for the teen in front of him. He had been jealous, angry, frustrated, and sad with his treatment. Still, just like Kakashi, the last mission had been a turning point for their frustrated rivalry. It had been that mission that Kakashi and Obito had finally started to understand each other and earned each other's respect. So seeing his rival and brother and future sensei like that in front of him, Naruto couldn't stop himself anymore. You're being stupid, he stated simply. The hand with the kunai twitched in annoyance of being interrupted. Would your teammate want you to wallow in the past? What the hell do you know? Kakashi was cursing. Naruto had hit a sour spot, it seemed, making him mentally smirk. That's so stupid. The hand of the scarf teenager reached out and grasped the straps that Kakashi still wore from the mission he had just returned to. Kakashi flinched and growled in warning, but he did not make any move to hurt the guy in front of him. You should focus on the future. You don't know it. Why would you wallow into pity and guilt like that if it makes you and the people around you suffer? Shu. I'm sure he is very disappointed in yo. His eyes widened as Kakashi's face suddenly came closer to him. His headband suddenly lifted up. The kunai was also pressed against his neck, though with the side of the blade as not to cut the boy's neck. It made it difficult for Naruto to talk though, as he didn't want to accidentally cut himself. "Shut up," Kakashi roared. He was about to say more when he saw the distant look the boy had as he was staring at the Sharingan. The Uchiha's empty eye pocket suddenly started itching very badly, much like a phantom pain. It was as if actually seeing the Sharingan in Kakashi's eye made him more aware of the absence of his own. Releasing the boy's straps, he started rubbing at his eye and eye socket. He groaned out as memories started overwhelming him. "Kakashi, I didn't get you a present. Implant the eye, a Sharingan. See the world." He sagged back against the tree, his knees suddenly feeling weak. The times that he was able to look at the teen, he could only be drawn to the Sharingan that was in the teen's possession. He started feeling dizzy and chuckled faintly. He let himself slid down to the ground and Kakashi stepped away ever so slightly, realizing that something was wrong. "Start living in the present, bastard. There are plenty of other things to enjoy," Naruto said as he finally let go of his eyes. The moment he looked up at his friend again, he saw his future sensei startle back. He turned deadly shade of pale. "No, no way," Kakashi whispered harshly, denying the possibility. "He's dead. I saw him get crushed. It was my FAU dash." Oh. Naruto though, as he suddenly realized the reason for his sudden change of demeanor. His eye was using on chakra. "I activated my Sharingan? How?" He hadn't even noticed. Kakashi, however, certainly had. Naruto didn't stop the teenager as he suddenly appeared crouched in front of him and pried of his scarf and bandana. Naruto winced slightly at the slightly rough handling, but he could understand Kakashi's desperation. He felt himself become heavy as if something was trying to pull his down. As if something was trying to pull himself up by pulling Naruto down. Whatever it was, it made Naruto feel very dizzy. "Hi, Kakashi bastard," he said, grinning heavily. "I'm starting to remember you," said teenager sat in front of him, absolutely shocked. He took a shuddering breath. "Obito," Kakashi gasped, still in shock. "Is this real?" He couldn't help but wonder and gently touched the scars and slightly mauled part of Obito's face to find confirmation. "Yeah," Naruto whispered, guilt gnawing at him. He forced himself to smile, which became more genuine as he saw the amount of life and relief that filled the teenager's face. "I'm sorry that I'm late," he whispered at last. It seemed to do the trick and was pulled into a bone-crushing hug. Pulling all his energy together, he hugged his friend back, patting him slowly on the shoulder. He plainly ignored Kakashi's shaking shoulders and instead leaned his chin on them. The boy did not make much noise, but instead sobbed silently as his cropped-up emotions came to the surface. Naruto didn't comment on this. It felt very good to feel that amount of love being directed at him. The rush of the fight had left him and the tiring fight caught up to him. The dizziness of his brain increased and Naruto felt his eyes sliding shut. The Uchiha was aware of the increase of the pulling sensation and wondered what was going on. "Is Kyuubi trying to pull me in?" he pondered as he let himself be pulled along. Kakashi didn't even more as he felt the Uchiha's head grow heavy. The ninja was now very much aware that something must be wrong for Obito to hide his identity like that. It wouldn't be for nothing, especially not if Minato was concerned. How had they found him? How had he gotten away? Kakashi had tried feverishly and powerlessly tried to get Obito out of there, but his efforts had been futile. Yet here he was. He was really there. Kakashi suddenly connected all the dots. The twisted chakra that did feel somewhat familiar to Obito's, his hoarse voice, his antics. He was really back from the dead. "No matter what happens, I'm not going to let it happen again," he promised himself as he tightened his hold on the teenager a little bit more. A little farther away, two figures silently kept their distance to let the white-haired Jounin calm down and have some time for himself. "Will he be all right?" the shortest one whispered. I'm sure he will be. The tallest reassured the girl. At least, eventually, he continued in his mind. Now comes the most difficult part, he muttered. If the girl didn't what he was talking about, she didn't comment on it. Mindscape. Kyubi? Was that you? Naruto called out as he headed towards the fox. He stopped as he suddenly noticed that something was different. It was not the wrong kind of different, but more like something in the air has changed kind of different. A certain suspicion gnawed at Naruto as he slowly turned around and headed for a certain foxhole that a certain Uchiha had been sleeping in. Just as he turned around a corner, he was tackled to the side and slammed into a tree. Luckily, it didn't contain any memory as the tree complied with the wishes of the mine's owner, which was to stand there and to act as a tree that the owner could slam the stranger into. What's up with slamming me into trees today? Naruto wondered as his collar was seized by a pair of hands. Who the hell are you? What is going on? Naruto groaned out as he had a feeling who this was. His suspicion was confirmed a moment later as he was met with a very familiar face. Said face glared at him, to which Naruto smiled rather sheepishly at him. So, Obito-kun, did you have any nice dreams lately? End chapter. Finally finished. Oh, Kakashi is such a fun character to write. I hope you all liked the reunion between the two. Of course, the fact that Kakashi knows it is Obito doesn't make it any easier yet, since they will have to talk eventually, about a certain eye for example. Why do I have a feeling that that will be very awkward? Anyway, please share your thoughts. Review. Give me a little bit of your time and all that. I would love to hear from you guys. Till next time. The moment that Obito had come here, there were only 2 words needed to summarize his situation. Damn it. It hadn't taken long for Obito to figure out that he had died. That was what an odd memory told him at least. He had been crushed by boulders in order to save his teammate. The pain that had come with it as was easy to remember as well. Surely that couldn't have been his imagination, right? If it was, then this would have to be the strangest and most crazy dream that the ninja had ever had. Obito found himself watching Kakashi's adventures through his own eye when Kakashi decided to uncover Obito's Sharingan eye, Genjutsu. It was a possibility, and though the chances would be very small, his current situation was even more improbable. After thinking about it for a long time, he surely had enough time to think in the darkness when the Sharingan was covered. Obito decided that he must have died after all. Genjutsu wouldn't feel like this. Being an Uchiha, who had been well taught about the art of Genjutsu, the boy knew that it was impossible for him to be caught in one right now. Having no other choice, nor anything else to do in the plane of nothingness, Obito waited and helped Kakashi when he could. Unsurprisingly, the Uchiha had tried to call out to the ninja at first. He desperately wanted to talk to the white-haired ninja, but his screams, cries, and even the insults were not heard. Eventually, Obito had tried to fight against the bonds that held him in place. Just before he started to believe that he would become insane from being unable to call out to his friend, there had been one moment that had given Obito hope. One day, during a mission, when he had felt a ninja's presence try to sneak up on Kakashi when he had fallen asleep, Obito had tried to wake him up. He had screamed, he had cried. He had pulled and pushed against the bonds that held him and had been sure that Kakashi would be killed as well. However, just before it was too late, Obito sent out a tingle of chakra, or whatever energy he had inside of him, out to his friend. It worked, somehow. Kakashi barely woke up in time to miss the fatal hit that had been directed at him. The ninja had been killed a second later. At the first opportunity that Kakashi got once he arrived in Konoha, the shinobi visited the stone. It had been the first time that Kakashi had uncovered his Sharingan when he was there. I don't know if I'm just going crazy, Obito. Maybe you will laugh at me when I see you again. But for now, I will try to show the future with me more often. Obito had been glad and sad that it had been raining that day, as Kakashi wasn't able to figure out if the wetness on his cheek came from the Sharingan or the rain. After having hovered in this sense of awareness for what felt like a couple of weeks, It had been that moment that had reminded Obito of the words that he had spoken to Kakashi before his death. "I will become your eye," he had told Kakashi just before he died, right? "And see the future with you." He suddenly clearly remembered the numb pain that he felt when Rin had removed Obito's eye and the sensation of his chakra's strange pulsing as the eye had been placed in Kakashi's eye socket. Had something happened at that moment? Had he been linked to Kakashi? Whatever had happened, it was all worth it though. Because whatever it was, it allowed Obito to follow Kakashi and to aid him in those difficult moments during his life. This was enough for Obito. He had saved his friend for a reason. His friend had become strong. He was only glad that he would be able to follow it. Still, Obito was sad to see that Kakashi struggled with the guilt that he felt. It didn't happen often, but sometimes, especially when Kakashi would visit the memento stone, he would be able to get an impression of the emotions that Kakashi was feeling. Months passed this way and Obito couldn't help but notice something strange. The restraints were loosening. This excited and scared the shinobi at the same time. What would happen if he was released? Would he die? Would he fall in this nothingness forever? Would he lose his connection to Kakashi? So many questions, and no answers at all. Obito sighed as he once again looked around himself as he hovered in the strange darkness that surrounded him. At least those few emotions that he was able to catch from Kakashi made sure that he didn't get too bored. Yesterday they had finished a very difficult mission. Luckily, Kakashi managed to evade death again. Had he not spotted the second ninja, he would have been a goner. Obito pondered as he tried to lie down in the nothingness, his arms crossed behind his head. I wonder when he will reach the stone. He surely doesn't normally take this long. The ninja complained, feeling more impatient than ever. He liked it when Kakashi talked to him. It made him feel like he was still there. A tingle of emotions went down Obito's spine and he suddenly felt more alert. It was Kakashi's emotion. Kakashi felt angry. It was very rare for Kakashi to experience that much emotion outside of a fight. Never had he felt so angry during the time that Obito had been there either. He usually buried all his emotions. Why is he so angry? Obito wondered and became more impatient. The emotions slowly started to increase and more were added. Frustration, guilt, sadness, and many more threw Obito completely off guard. What the hell caused this? Obito wondered, eyes wide as he shivered. Not that he was complaining. It was exactly what Kakashi needed. Then suddenly his surroundings morphed and he was seeing the outer world once again. The first thing that he saw was that me was the only thing that went through his stunned mind before his thoughts went blank and he started twisting against the bonds that pulling him away. Obito's mind. There was a soft gasp as a figure tensed in surprise. Did I just wake up? Obito dared to wonder as he froze in shock. Just a moment ago he had been hovering in the darkness that he had gotten used to. Now it suddenly looked very fuzzy when he thought about it. Being there had been the oddest sensation. It was as if he had been dreaming, but that was impossible. So where was he now? He glanced up and stared at the grass that tickled his nose. He was lying in a fetus-like pose in a hollow tree. The Uchiha blinked in surprise, as he didn't dare to move. He was too scared that he would disappear from this place if he did. How is this possible? Eyes narrowed as he heaved himself up. Whatever is going on, I'm going to. He took a deep breath when information hit him. Whatever was going on, Obito was suddenly sure of a couple of things. 1, this was his brain and he was not in control. 2, he, or rather his body, was alive. 3, someone else was in control. 4, the presence was heading this way. 5, he was going to get some questions answered. 6, Obito was not happy. With those things in mind, Obito growled out and took off running. Naruto. So, Obito-kun, did you have any nice dreams lately? Naruto smiled rather sheepishly at the form of Uchiha Obito in front of him. His skin did not have any markings of being nearly crushed like Naruto's mental form had adapted during his Minato's visit. Interesting. Wah? The 13-year-old figure muttered in front of him, caught off guard by his odd and rather calm reaction. Using the chance that he had, Naruto tried to slip past Obito's form, having had enough of being trapped against a tree. Naruto hoped that he would be able to pull Obito's hands away from his collar, but unfortunately for the ninja, Obito's mind caught up before Naruto got out of Obito's hold. Shaking Naruto's collar for emphasis, Obito got right back on track. "Shut up. Who the hell are you?" he demanded, causing Naruto to put his hands up in surrender. Sheesh, he is impatient, Naruto thought. Calm down, kid. He tried to shush him, knowing that he would need the kid to think a little more reasonably in order to understand Naruto's explanation of their current situation. After all, said situation was a little unusual. Freaking unbelievable, you mean? He thought to himself as his sweat dropped. How on earth am I going to explain this? He really should have planned ahead for this moment. Well, I guess I will just have to calm him down first and then tell my story and look where it goes, Naruto decided. However, looking at the state that the black-haired child was in. "Shut up and tell me who you are." The child in front of him growled at him, sounding more dangerous this time. His head turned to the side ever so slightly and a lock of black hair fell away from the boy's face, which had previously hidden the activated Sharingan in his left eye. Activated Sharingan equals anger. Wait a minute dash. Naruto frowned when his eyes focused on the child's left eye. Obito still has both eyes? Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. Uzumaki Naruto at your service, the ninja calmly stated while he pondered about this odd revelation. Why do you look like me? Came the next question. Huh? Naruto blinked in surprise and his eyes shifted up, only to realize that the boy was right. The spiky hair that fell just over his eyes was not his usual blonde. What? But I can't change my real look, right? That's not my real appearance. He tried to explain only for the kid to look even more distrusting. Naruto waved his hands in defense. No, you don't understand. Oh, how was he going to do this? Naruto frowned as he thought back to his own temper when he was 13. Yeah, I wasn't that easy to calm down then either, he decided. Then explain. The boy suddenly gagged and collapsed. Naruto was just in time to catch the boy and lower him to the ground. Whoa, calm down, kid, Naruto exclaimed, surprised by the sudden collapse. Are you all right? Nar Naruto. The boy gasped, his hands reaching for his head. Why do I suddenly have this memory that is not mine? What? Well, I have a couple of your memories too, Naruto explained, but it did not have the right effect. What? Are you a mind reader? Get out of here. Brain, get him out, Obito cried, pushing him away. Calm down, kid. It was not working. For some reason, Obito was not in control of his mind. Why don't you get out of my mind? He exclaimed in panic, his eyes wide as he looked at Naruto in mistrust. Well, that's because I'm kind of in control of your mind since you d. What? No. Get out. Obito managed to get away from Naruto's hold this time and backed away from him. Look, Obito. I'm not here to scare you or to take over. I simply want you to calm down for a moment so we can talk. Obito was not calming down and Naruto's eyebrow twitched in annoyance. Itai. The ninja stopped his rambling when Naruto bonked him on the head and stiffened when he saw Naruto glare down at him. Naruto blinked and glanced at his clothes when he noticed that his clothes had shifted back to the outfit Naruto used to wear as the Toad Sage. So my memories trigger my appearance and Obito's own memories? The mechanism behind it puzzled him slightly and Naruto scratched the back of his head in confusion. At this familiar gesture, Obito stared at him with big eyes. This picture suddenly looked very familiar to him. His eyes glazed over ever so slightly, just as Naruto tried to get the kid's attention. Obito, pay attention.
Hi, Sensei.
Obito snapped out hastily, as one of his memories momentarily overlapped with one of his training sessions. They both stilled and stared at each other. You are not Minato-sensei, Obito slowly stated, realizing that though the stranger looked familiar, he did not look like his sensei that much. The ninja in front of him sighed. No, I'm not. Listen, it is a very long story and I prefer to tell it only once, all right? Obito nodded numbly as he waited for the blonde to sit down cross-legged in front of him. Well, to tell the truth, my story starts a few months from now. In the future? Obito exclaimed in disbelief. Yes, please don't interrupt me. Now, as I was saying. You are from the future? Judging from the Uchiha's look, the kid didn't believe him one tiny bit. Yes, now shut up and pay attention. You can complain later, Naruto growled at him. Obito glared at him but followed his order. So, as I was saying, this was going to take a while. Later. Naruto waited patiently for Obito's eyes to become unglazed. It didn't take much to figure out that once memories were triggered from hearing Naruto's story, some of them would be experienced by Obito, much like it happened when Naruto had first stepped into Obito's mind. Wow! Obito breathed as the memory faded. So that was how you took down Madara? He asked and Naruto nodded in confirmation. He was very strong. I nearly lost. Naruto shivered at the memory. You know, you are kind of cool. It is odd, but I feel like I can trust you completely. Obito admitted a little uncomfortably. Thanks, Naruto grinned slightly at the compliment and completely understood what Obito was saying. It was odd for a ninja to trust another so much in such a short time, but he couldn't help but feel the same. I feel absolutely the same, Obito, he said, smiling brightly. I admire your strength very much, Naruto continued, causing the boy in front of him to flush in embarrassment. My sensei would have died if it was not for you. I would be dead without you, Obito objected. That's far more important. Don't think that way, Naruto snapped at him, causing the boy to flinch. Every small thing counts, remember that. That is why I am doing this. I know that this may be hard for you, seeing as this is your body, but please. Naruto actually bowed down to the boy in front of him, his legs still crossed and his hands resting on his knees. Let me change the future. He couldn't help but swallow as heavy emotions hit him. I need to change it. Obito stared at him in surprise and was about to pull him up when the emotions hit him as well. Tears started forming in his eyes and he quickly rubbed them away with his sleeve, glad that the ninja in front of him couldn't see them. Well, he said, clearing his voice. I would love to help you, he said, his voice determined. Naruto rose up, his eyes teary as well, but they didn't fall down. Thank you very much. I will make sure to keep everyone as safe as possible. Because I can't guarantee your safety. Was left unspoken, but Obito was aware of the dangers anyway. The Uchiha in front of him nodded seriously at him, before a spark suddenly appeared in his eyes. Does that mean that you can train me after this whole thing? Wait, what? I mean, you must be super strong. How else did you get so strong to take down Madara? Well, I did have a little bit of help. Naruto smiled sheepishly. A little? You ungrateful brat. You nearly killed me by drawing so much chakra from me. The rumble caught both the figures off guard for a moment. Naruto relaxed quite quickly, but Obito stayed frozen where he was, staring with wide eyes into the direction where the voice came from. Is that the demon fox? He whispered to Naruto, who he had slowly come to trust. He might not be sure what to make of his current situation, but he did feel like Naruto was far easier to trust than a demon of all things. Yes, that is the furball, all right. Naruto agreed with him, smiling as he got back to his feet. You insolent whelp. I will think twice about helping you out next time, Kyubi growled. Grinning, Naruto pulled the shocked Obito up. Did you just call him furball? His eyes seemed to ask as Naruto pulled him along to meet the fox. Shut it, Q. It's not like I haven't saved your sorry ass a couple of times as well. Remember that spell that Madara managed to put you under? You would have been a goner, and he would have had all your chakra for himself if I hadn't managed to stop him. Well, you nearly weren't able to do anything. Besides, I would have gotten out of that myself a few seconds later. The fox defended himself. Sure you did, Fuzzy, Naruto agreed sarcastically. It happened only once as well, Whiskerbrat. Obito seemed very nervous as he realized that they were actually moving towards the booming voice. He tried to tug himself free, but Naruto's hold was firm. Naruto, realizing that the boy was reluctant to meet the demon, sent him a reassuring grin. He didn't realize that the grin was very familiar to Minato's, which seemed to calm the boy ever so slightly. That is because I put that damn seal in to make sure that no one could invade my brain and disturb your beauty sleep, oh mighty Ninetails. Don't tell me that I need to remind you of all the times that I managed to save your sorry ass with my healing. Well, you wouldn't want to die, would you? It is not that you do it for my own well-being. Naruto called back and seemed not to feel bothered about this fact at all. And you know it, brat. Naruto stopped just in front of the row of trees that held the demon fox away from the rest of the brain. The appearance of the fox was safely hidden in the shadows, though. Nice to hear that you are awake once again, Kyubi. The blonde grinned at the fox. Well, judging from your appearance, you could use some actual sleep as well, brat. Though this damn Uchiha. Obito flinched at the demon's nasty tone. Has been sleeping enough. Don't talk about appearances, Kyubi. Or would you prefer to come out of hiding so that we can talk face to face? I have absolutely no desire to take one step closer to that ugly nasty Uchiha brat. Even if his chakra is about the opposite from Madara's evil chakra. I might not be able to contain my urge to grab him and to eat him piece by piece. Obito shivered and carefully tried to take a step away from the shadows, but Naruto put a hand on his shoulder to calm him down. Be polite, Kyubi. I still rule this mind. He reminded the fox, a dangerous glint in his eyes. Don't worry, brat. He's a little sore spot when it comes to you, clan. Kyubi only growled in reply. About that, Obito suddenly cut in as he was reminded of this fact. Why are you in control? This is my mind? Surely I will get back control of my own mind, right? There was an uncomfortable silence. He got you there, Gaki. Shut it, Kyubi. Naruto grumbled and turned to the Uchiha, who twitched in discomfort. Naruto sighed. Well, you are right, of course, but since you lost connection with your mind, I have taken your brain over for now. I will gladly give it back eventually, but I still need to stop the other Kyubi from attacking. Obito slowly nodded at the explanation. How are you going to do that? Naruto's face turned very pensive, his eyebrows furrowed and eyes glazed. His lips parted slightly and he took a deep breath to answer, catching both the attention of the demon fox, who doubted that the brat could come up with anything useful, and the eagerly awaiting Obito. I have absolutely no idea yet. Obito's sweat dropped while the demon rolled his eyes. Figures. Well, that's troublesome, Naruto and Obito both said at the same time, each borrowing the words from two different, but related people. They chuckled before they turned serious again. However lovely this emotional bonding is, I need to talk about our future deaths. The fox's tone was as plain as it could get. You're what? Obito exclaimed, turning to Naruto. He is serious? Well, since I have to be born and I have this spiritual DNA or something like that. He heard the QB sigh in annoyance at his rough explanation. My soul is destined to enter my baby's form at birth, which is why I will either die and be reborn, die and actually disappear, or roam around the world forever. Other possibilities include that I will be pulled towards the body and will be reborn with my memories intact. Obito blinked. So there can't be two of you, he tried to summarize. Yes. Yes. Naruto and QB confirmed at the same time. Actually, Brat, I have been thinking about it and I might have a solution. Naruto turned towards the fox, his eyes wide in hope. Yes, QB. Why do you think that I have not disappeared yet, even though there is another QB out there? Air. Naruto frowned. Are you sealed to his soul? Obito cut in, clearly not sure of his answer. Well, the Uchiha is not as much as a dimwit as I believed him to be. Much better than a certain blonde high. Hey, Naruto cut out in objection. That can't even tell the difference between spilled milk and fresh milk. That only happened once. Even with the extra senses that my presence had gifted him with. I was 12. Obito coughed in an attempt to break up the argument. I have simply been trying to learn some seals that Minato-sensei showed me. To impress Rin. Naruto thought in amusement as he remembered a certain memory that he had received. Obito didn't say anything, but his face told the teen enough. Indeed, in a way, sealing causes a small part of the soul to merge with the other. Thus, being bound to Naruto's soul has altered my own ever so slightly. This merged part could be separated if I was released, which would still be the best approach to take in order to stop Madara. He pointedly reminded Naruto, as long as I am bound, it allows me to coexist with the other me and it keeps us separated. So I have to be sealed? Naruto questioned, clearly feeling very uncomfortable about this solution. Well, it will be more difficult. Seeing you have a human soul, it is more difficult since you mortals are so fragile. Both mortals glared at the comment. This means that you can only be merged with someone that has a similar soul frequency. However, judging from your character and the energy that you carry, that shouldn't be a problem. Both ninjas stared blankly at him again. Letting out a deep sigh, QB continued with his explanation. The reason why we ended up in that Uchiha brat's body dash, Obito's eye twitched in annoyance of being ignored, is because your souls, let's call it a color so your brain can follow, is very familiar to the brats. I would nearly swear that you could have been reborn as the other. The fox muttered the last part thoughtfully. The two stared at each other in surprise. Well, your presence did feel familiar, Naruto acknowledged, his eyes showing just how much he was freaking out from all the information. Same here, Obito confirmed, though he seemed just as spooked out as Naruto. It is as if I should know nearly everything about you, they both chorused. That's creepy, they said at the same time once more. They stared at each other for a moment as QB let out an amused chuckle. Well, brats, you seem to be a match, congratulations. The fox stated as he drew closer to the trees to get a better look at the faces of the two mortals. The QB had not grown much at all, which worried Naruto ever so slightly. I will have to ask later on, he decided. Meanwhile, Naruto glared at the fox in annoyance, while Obito's eyes widened in surprise. What? It is just the fox. It's not that, I just… What? Thought he would be a bit more intimidating. QB snarled at the Uchiha, causing the young teenager to retreat a couple of steps, while Naruto started laughing rather loudly. You little insolent freaky red-eyed Uchiha. I am the great magnificent dash, the fox started his rant. Obito stared with big eyes at the fox as Naruto wiped away a tear from his eye. I'm glad I have some more company, Obito. Welcome back, he said, slapping the young teenager on the back. Obito shot him a nervous and sheepish smile, not sure if the fox would become even angrier if he were to slip away during his rant. Just before he could make a decision, he tensed. Naruto felt dizziness hit him and he sat down on his knees. Whoa, I don't feel good all of a sudden. I'm feeling a pull, Obito whispered. Someone is trying to wake you up, the fox muttered, pausing in the midst of his rant. Then why am I not waking up? I'm in charge, Naruto exclaimed up. I am right. It seems that this is not the case anymore, brat. You might have the most control over the body, but the brat still is the creator of this mind. That does not mean that he will be of much use though. He might be able to wake up, but he will be unable to move any body parts yet. He has as much control as a baby right now. But I'm fading away, Obito exclaimed, suddenly afraid of what would happen after he heard what Kyuubi had to say. Naruto, seeing the fear in the boy's eyes, placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. I am unsure how much you will be able to do, but just enjoy the moment that you have, all right? We will fix this later. I will keep silent about what happened. Naruto looked thoughtful for a moment before his eyes widened and he smiled. Actually, if they press you and you are able to explain anything at all, you can tell them about me. Make sure to remain vague though. Oh, and don't tell them about my true identity and my future's past. I'm just another part of you, Naruto stated seriously, his appearance shifting into a slightly older Obito with the scars intact. Obito stared at the scars for a moment, before nodding. That's how I look, isn't it? He managed to ask just before he was pulled away. Naruto watched the empty spot sadly, before turning to the fox. So what is it that you do the whole time when I'm gone? The fox grinned at him. Well. Now it is your turn to realize just how frustrating it is to be locked away in someone's mind, the fox stated with a lot of amusement, before he turned away to walk back into the darkness. Hey Furball, you never answered my question, Naruto exclaimed, shaking his fist at the retreating figure of the fox. Naruto didn't get any response. Stupid Furball, Naruto grumbled under his breath as he turned around. His eyes looked over all the trees that surrounded him. Kicking up some sand, he couldn't help but feel dread hover over him. He was going to get so bored. Wait a minute. How does the fox know what is going on when he is in my mind? His eyes narrowed at the sudden inspiration. Whatever happened, he was going to find out sooner or later. With that new goal, Naruto set off, wondering if he should be searching for some kind of television or something completely different. Back to reality with Minato. Minato hummed as he impatiently waited for his ramen to be ready. He was somewhat amused by the fact that Kakashi was acting so grumpy around him. It seemed that his student had not appreciated the way that he had let Kakashi find out the truth of their new teammate's identity. Honestly, Minato could understand that Kakashi would have preferred to keep his emotions hidden, but the boy had needed it. One day, Kakashi would thank him. Counting down the time in his head, Minato grabbed his chopsticks to start eating his dinner. It had been a very long day and he was hungry. Ramen would be able to give him an extra boost today. After dinner, he would be able to check up on the mission statuses, then meet with the Hokage, check up on Obito, train with the team. Then train himself to stay fit. Meet once more with the Hokage and check up on Obito once more. Hopefully Kushina would be back by then and they could go out to dinner. After that, he would be able to check up on Obito once more and try to talk to him about what would have happened. Nodding to himself, he opened his mouth to take the first bite of that heavily delicious ramen. Sensei, something is wrong. Minato immediately turned his attention to his oldest student that came running towards him. His chopsticks froze and his mouth shut closed. With an absent, regretful thought, he put his chopsticks down and stood up. What is wrong? He quickly asked as he followed the teenager to the other room of his house. He is waking up, but he is not reacting like he should, Kakashi explained, desperately trying to remain calm. But Minato easily caught the unease and worry in his voice. As they entered the room, Minato spotted Rin hovering over Obito, her hands glowing as she diagnosed his health. I can't find anything wrong with him, she said worriedly. I need to calm them down somewhat. Wake up, Obito-kun, Minato tried to exclaim cheerfully as he ignored the glares that Kakashi and Rin shot him. Obito-kun, he sang out once more as he saw the teenager stir in acknowledgement. The team stood next to the bed that stood in Minato's guest room. It was not the first time that someone of the team crashed there after a long and difficult training, but this occasion was pretty special. Is he all right, sensei? Rin called out, looking very worried. He is waking up too slowly, she explained. Minato frowned, realizing that she was right. Kakashi, who was standing right next to Obito's head, frowned. His hand twitched in an urge to shake the boy's shoulder, but he knew better. Ninja were very dangerous to wake up by shaking. Minato was glad that he let him in charge. Obito, Minato called out a little more firmly. Came the acknowledgement as Obito's eye finally opened. All the ninja tensed as they noticed the glazed look in the eye. This was not good. Sese. Even his speaking abilities were decreased, judging from the way that Obito tried to move his mouth. The eyes suddenly became more alert and became more scared. His eyes shifted over his surrounding far too quickly to be calm. Once they caught sight of him, though, they calmed ever so slightly. Obito, please move your arm, Minato called out carefully, his own nerves rising. Why? Why can't this be easy? He couldn't help but bemoan. The boy didn't deserve this. Wasu. The sound was much like a baby's babbling. The arm moved ever so slightly, but it was too slow. It was too heavy and too uncoordinated. Rin, please go and see if Inoichi is home right now. He should be in the village. Kakashi, please inform the Hokage of the current situation. I will not be able to meet him right now, he ordered quickly. The two ninja reluctantly retreated, preferring to stay with Obito as well, but knowing better than to ignore the orders from their sensei.
Hi, Sensei.
They chorused as they both rushed off to their own mission. Letting out a deep sigh, Minato turned to Obito and smiled in a reassuring way. Don't worry, Obito. We will figure out what is wrong, all right? In the meantime, I want you to try and answer a couple of my questions, all right? Minato couldn't help but feel slightly relieved when Obito made a barely unnoticeable nod. Every small things of response counts, since in these difficult kind of situations, it could make the difference of being a hopeful case or being a hopeless one. And there was no way that the yellow flash of Konoha would accept with the latter from becoming the truth.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.